Good tidings, ladies and gentlemen of the Lodge, and welcome back. The 20th anniversary hype is still fueling us here at the Lodge, as today's video will again be focusing around Kingdom Hearts, but more specifically, Kingdom Hearts Dark Road. I believe the finale of Dark Road will bring about the answers to a lot of questions, and will have a massive effect on the future narrative of the series. As we all know, Dark Road wears its influence of Norse mythology on its sleeve. But what if I told you that the story of Dark Road is going to directly parallel the story of Ragnarok in a way that dwarfs the parallels of even Union X's finale? What if I told you that this cataclysmic Ragnarok event is a vicious cycle the world of Kingdom Hearts is trapped within? Well, get yourselves comfortable because we are about to dive headfirst into Kingdom Hearts Dark Road. Starting with the examples that are the most on the nose, Odin and Balder. Of course, we all know these are pulled straight out of the Norse mythos, but more peculiarly, both Odin and Balder are two of the most significant players within the Ragnarok event. For context, let's briefly discuss the characters' role in this story. Ragnarok is actually the event where Odin meets his doom, which, seeing as we haven't heard or seen anything of Odin outside of Dark Road, in all likelihood it's very possible he meets his end here. If we are indeed headed for another Ragnarok event, Odin's demise would be an immediate signal that it's coming. But now let's move on to Balder. Balder sort of serves as Ragnarok's quote-unquote shot heard around the world. If Ragnarok is truly upon us, then Balder will actually die before the cataclysmic event. In fact, in the Norse myth, Balder's death is in a sense an omen or a signal to the death of all gods. Balder's death, in a sense, serves as an omen to the coming death of all gods. So if we see Balder meet his doom before the end of Dark Road, we'll have reason to be suspicious that Ragnarok is on the way. Our next point is going to circle around a lot of what we were able to see in the 20th anniversary trailer. Quick shout out to the Twitter account DataBoyRiku for pointing some of this out and getting my mind turning. But check this out. A lot of the monsters and enemies we saw Xehanort and the gang square up against are pulled straight out of Ragnarok. Let's start with this shot here. These two enemies could represent the fire and ice giants that fight alongside Loki in the Ragnarok story. Now, we don't have a Loki to point to in this shot as of yet, but it will be curious to see if these beasts were ignited by a character who shares a sort of overlap with Loki. But with that information withheld for now, we see an obvious parallel to the fire and ice giants in the Ragnarok story. Another beast from the tale of Ragnarok is Garm, who is told to be a dog or wolf of the underworld. And seeing as we have Cerberus here, who himself is a dog of the underworld in Olympus, suddenly this starts to look like a little more than just sheer coincidence, especially when you consider all of these shots were in sequence of one another. But it doesn't stop there. Another beast who shows themselves in the Ragnarok tale is the quote-unquote world serpent that resembles the look of a dragon. As we see, we get a cut of a party fighting Dragon Maleficent, who very well could also be a stand-in for the world serpent of Ragnarok. So we deliberately see an overlap with the beasts of Ragnarok, and these particular enemies were not only handpicked for the trailer, but were shown in sequence of one another. This all could be a coincidence, but perhaps not. So let's keep fleshing this theory out to see just how likely all of this is. Obviously, an event like Ragnarok racks up an insane amount of casualties. We've seen since episode 1 that Xehanort ends up in this gravesite, presumably mourning his friends. However, and I admit this point is definitely going to need more context, but have we considered that all these graves were dug up at once? Maybe this is a gravesite of all who have perished in the Ragnarok event. After all, we have seen this type of aesthetic before in the Keyblade Graveyard, which again is the aftermath of an apocalyptic type Ragnarok event. Again, these visuals don't have the same budget, but all these graves do look identical to one another, as if they were all set up at once. But again, that could very easily just be lack of a budget. Moving on. The next point of evidence that we could be going through an apocalyptic event would actually be this quick shot right here. We see two warriors in armor fall into the ground, and wouldn't you know it, it appears to be both Xehanort and Ericus. Odin arrives at the site of destruction, and again, wouldn't you know it, darkness is hanging out right over here. And seeing as Odin had to cast this shield around himself and the young warriors, you would have to imagine whatever is happening outside of the shield must be catastrophic. Let's be honest, guys, this is a story revolving around Xehanort called Dark Road. We would be silly to think that this story is going to end well for him, so we should all be bracing ourselves for an unhappy ending where Xehanort concludes that the Dark Road is the best path forward. I bring this up because should Dark Road be leading us into a Ragnarok-esque apocalyptic event, Xehanort's response to it would be in direct contrast to the way Ephemer responded to the apocalypse in Daybreak Town. Ephemer's conclusion was to create and build, and this new Scala ad Caelum was born. Yet Xehanort's experience will lead him to conclude that destruction, as opposed to creation, is the best path forward. Suddenly, Ephemer's appearance in the Keyblade Graveyard means that much more. Apocalyptic events are nothing new to Kingdom Hearts. Whether we look at Union Cross at the beginning of the timeline, or we look at Xehanort's attempts in Kingdom Hearts 3. It seems like the world of Kingdom Hearts is under constant threat of this apocalyptic type event. Seeing all the setup in Dark Road, a Ragnarok type event would fit the bill, and would seemingly traumatize Xehanort to the extent where his motives become more understandable. But at the end of the day, I'm here to see what you guys think. Is this where Dark Road is headed, or will it be a more simplistic event as opposed to what we have seen in Union Cross? Let me know. But anyway, folks, be sure to drop a like on the video and sub to the channel. You lovely ladies and gentlemen, be good out there, be good to each other and yourselves, and I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies next time.